Early in the year, I attempted 30 platinums in 30 days. And while that challenge was an experience in sleep deprivation, I really honestly loved it. So 6 months later, with the caffeine shakes finally gone and my memory of the hollowed out husk I became fading, I thought, you know what?
Another one.
And no, I'm not doing 60 platinums in 60 days, random person who clicks on this video without reading the title. We're doing something far more difficult. The Platinum A to Z Challenge. Now, I first saw this idea in a fantastic video from John Callum, who he himself picked up from Sandres. This kind of felt like the natural evolution of 30 in 30. The concept is very simple. Complete 27 platinums, one for every letter of the alphabet. And no, I'm not trying to sneak in the Australian alphabet. It's because these two mad lads decided to throw a number into the mix, and me, I am nothing if not a humble follower. So quickly before we get stuck in, it's time for everyone's favorite part of a challenge video.
What are the rules? What are the rules?
If you watched my previous one, these rules are going to look pretty familiar, but for the newcomers, every single game has to start from 0%. We're not doing any half-finished trophy lists or easy cleanups. Once I start a game, I have to finish it. Like the poor soul stuck with the King's Cup, there are absolutely no quitters here. You begin, you are locked in. This one should go without saying, but no 5-minute auto-plats. We won't be spending the challenge role-playing as a spice-averse person's favourite condiment. And the last rule, just for a bit of extra flavour, I won't be reusing a single game that John or Sandra has played. Partly to add a bit more variety to this version of the challenge, but also to showcase a mix of games you've either never heard of, or you definitely wouldn't expect to see in a challenge like this. And finally, to keep the spirit of the previous challenge alive, we are going to go for 27 plats in 27 days. So grab yourself a bevy, strap in, and let's dive into a trophy hunting alphabet. Kicking things off with day one, game one, we have a charming little cyberpunk puzzle side-scroller called 7th Sector. You start off controlling electricity running through wires and machines to solve puzzles to progress, all the while piecing together the world's mystery. There are no NPCs, no dialogue, and no exposition. Basically, the solo dev of this game looked at Souls item descriptions and said, yeah, I can give you less. And honestly, it works. Every area holds a piece of the puzzle, and when it all clicks together in the final chapters, the payoff is very, very awesome. It's even better for me because I can kind of show you everything without really spoiling anything. Like, for instance, we're in a human shape at this point, but are we a human? Like, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. While there was no PlayStation guide for this, there was a Steam one, so I was able to follow that, and basically it's just one playthrough plus a few partial replays for the alternate endings, some miscellaneous objectives, and there's two different types of collectibles, but they're both very, very easy to find. All up, it took about 6 hours to grab Platinum 1 on day 1. Coming up next is Z. Yes, we are going backwards. It's all going to line up as a chronological list when the challenge is done, but for now, just think of it as an alphabet sobriety test, but with trophies. So Z is one of the easiest letters, thanks to the approximately 8 billion games clogging the PSN store, starting with the word zombie. You've got incredibly memorable classics such as Zombie Army Trilogy, Zombie Army VR, Zombie Army 4, you know, the really big hitters. So amongst all of these zombie games, here's what I went with. Zero Time Dilemma plays out like a fully voice-acted interactive movie about 9 characters trapped in an underground bunker, forced through escape rooms with constant deadly stakes. Think Alice in Borderland, sort of? Like every decision, every puzzle splinters into new timelines, and someone's survival almost always comes at the expense of someone else's.
Get away with this.
Here's the thing though, these divergent paths aren't exactly dead ends. They do all loop back into the bigger picture, but in ways I can't super explain without spoiling what is honestly one of the most unhinged yet brilliant stories I've ever seen in a game. Trophy-wise, your job is to map out every single branch, solve every escape room, trigger every outcome, and hop around the timelines to kill everyone in every horrific way possible. I really only picked this one because I just didn't want to play some generic zombie shooter, but it ended up being one of the most engaging gaming experiences of my life. It's basically an interactive Saw movie where you get to watch every side of the coin flip. Also importantly, one of the cast is a heavy-chested femme fatale in stilettos, and she happens to be incredibly psychotic. What more could you possibly need? All up, Zero Escape, Zero Time Dilemma took about 10 hours, and we grabbed our second platinum on day 2. Now, why is the first of many tricky letters? You do have the option to go for yet another zombie defense game, but instead I picked what is undoubtedly the best Metroidvania pinball hybrid about a beetle postman I have ever played. Yoku's Island Adventure puts you in control of the most adorable beetle protagonist in gaming, as he rolls his little dung ball around to deliver letters because he's become the island's new postmaster. Part of that job description obviously being to save God from an almighty threat. Now, traversal is where things get pretty weird. Yoku can't jump and there's no real fast travel, and traveling between sections is done via these little interactive pinball segments where you control the flippers and the bumpers. At first it's really unique and fun, but it kind of didn't stay that way to me, thanks to collectibles being locked behind ability upgrades. So about half the game is backtracking through these pinball puzzles, and some of them require just absurd precision just to get from A to B. It was way harder than I expected, and very eye-opening about my complete lack of pinball skills. For the platinum, we need to complete the main story, which involves tracking down 3 different chiefs to unite to stop the God Slayer. Along the way, you beat some very fun and well-designed boss fights, use your new ability items to finish quirky NPC side quests, and hunt down a very substantial set of collectibles, though thankfully the in-game maps do keep it manageable. In the end, this was a much harder and at times tedious platinum than I expected, but still a very good game. All up, Yoku's Island Express took about 12 hours, giving us platinum number 3 at the end of day 3. Before we move on to one of the last letters I managed to fill, courtesy of a friend's recommendation. Xenon Valkyrie Plus is a vibrant little 2D roguelike with bullet hell elements and a gorgeous 8-bit design. Going into this game, I was told exactly 3 things about it. It'd be perfect for this style of challenge, I'd really enjoy it, and I would have to use the in-game cheat. Of course, I scoffed at that utter nonsense. There is no way that a capital G gamer like myself would need max health and damage to beat a game. I was far too proud for that.
So that was a fucking lie.
After an hour of wiping to the first boss without a shred of progress, I reassessed my relationship with Pride. And wouldn't you know it, the game is a pretty comfy platinum when you're a dirty cheater. Speaking of, the platinum involves beating the game with each character and fulfilling their secret requirements to unlock the true endings by building the Xenon Valkyrie weapon. That allows the final character to go through a path that leads to a fight against the god of creation. An incredibly nasty little bullet hell encounter I would have failed repeatedly without 10k health. Overall, it took about 3 hours to get this from start to finish, and despite really enjoying the environmental design and music, it mostly taught me that my skills lie in 3 dimensions. 2D is very tricky for me. Fortunately, the next title is far more lenient in terms of gameplay. Emotionally, it's absolutely brutal. What Remains of Edith Finch is one of the most beautiful pieces of art ever created, and it's the perfect showcase for video games being just that, art. The game plays out through our protagonist Edith revisiting her elaborate childhood home to discover her family's tragic history and what happened to her fellow Finches. This journey plays out with different styles of storytelling, often in interactive and creative ways, as Edith travels through her family history, filling out her journal. Some of these stories are funny, some are depressing, but almost all of them showcase both the beauty of life and how fleeting it is. More than that, most of these stories just cannot be told by any other medium than that of a video game. Like this story of Edith's brother Edward, it perfectly encapsulates the creative and wandering mind being trapped within a cage of monotony, bogged down from just everyday life. Now, once you finish the field trip this game takes you on, you can freely access any of these stories again to grab the very few missable and easily achieved trophies, making it one of the easiest and shortest games in this list, but one that is just, it's so worth playing to anyone that loves the medium of video games. Just maybe bring along some tissues and maybe like some warm tea. Yeah, anyway, Edith Finch took just over 2 hours, and with like all that nonsense about feelings and all that garbage behind us, it is time to play as a bloodlusted monster. Let's go. V Rising is a survival crafting RPG I've had on my radar for over a year. So when I started work on this list, V was actually the first letter I filled, and I'm overjoyed to tell you it was well worth the wait. You start as a humble vampire waking up in a nondescript crypt, which of course we give a sufficiently disarming name, and then your goal is to head out into the world and grow your castle from a dingy little sun reprieve into a fully customizable Castlevania-like magic fortress full of automated resource fabricators, complete with a small dungeon of delicious mortals to snack on. The main gameplay loop is tracking down the over 50 different bosses across the various different biomes. Each of these bosses have unique different abilities, tactics, and even personalities. They all give you new spells and recipes for crafting upgrades back home. You can then use these to upgrade your gear and stats to hunt down bigger and better bosses, until eventually you take on the father of all vampires and claim his undead throne. Honestly, like, that's just a fraction of the game though. There's a mechanic with servants you capture. You can convert them into soldiers and send them on errands or use them to defend your base. There's a huge PvP scene. There's gardening. You can build a stable. There is the best version of sun avoidance I've ever seen in a video game, complete with moving shadows on a day-night cycle. There's the countless hours you can spend personalizing your vampire castle. Honestly, like, I messed up big time playing this masterpiece of a game within a confined time limit under these challenge conditions, because it deserves significantly more time than I could give it. However, thanks to a slew of generous world customization options, you can edit your experience to make it a bit more streamlined and cut down significantly on the platinum time. Trophy-wise, it is very, very simple. Beat all the bosses, grab a handful of very easy miscellaneous trophies you'll likely get on the way, and you're done. Once we take down Daddy Dracula here, we will pop the last 2 trophies to grab the platinum. Ah, for fuck's sake. And once we kill the last anticlimactic fight here, we grab our last trophy and claim platinum number 6 on day 6 after about 16 hours. Right on schedule. With V complete, we've made it through the hardest stretch of letters. From here, the options open up quite dramatically. And this next stretch of games is literally pure nostalgia that I could not wait to dive in. And first off, we are revisiting the PS3's most recognizable series. Uncharted is a series I haven't touched since I had a PS3, which means, yeah, I missed the last two. So for this challenge, picking up Lost Legacy felt perfect, and honestly, it was like catching up with an old friend. The game, the whole thing, it just plays out like an action movie, full of jaw-dropping set pieces and incredibly cinematic combat sequences. The villain was spectacular, and you got to play as Claudia Black, and as everyone knows, every game is immediately improved by Claudia Black's inclusion. And although every time the two leads opened their mouths to talk to each other, it felt like a race to see who can fail the Bechdel test faster, their banter was still sharp and genuinely fun to watch. This one was a very different Platinum experience than what we've had so far, because there's only 2 trophies tied to the main story. There's around 10 or so tied to the 80 different collectibles, and a whopping 36 miscellaneous ones. Almost all of which are around new and creative ways to kill people. We also had to play on crushing difficulty, which fittingly lived up to its name. It wasn't too bad for most of the game, but there's 2 particular encounters that are full of enemies and armored vehicles that took me like 5 to 15 minutes per attempt. And if you die at any stage, you go straight back to the start. It wasn't the hardest game so far, but it was definitely the hardest trophy hunt, if that makes sense. Even after beating the story, I had to go back and clean up about half of the trophies I'd missed. Personally, I really like trophy lists like this. I love when games make interesting trophies that encourage playing the game creatively. Uncharted Lost Legacy was a spectacle of a video game. But more than that, it was the most enjoyable trophy hunt I've had in recent memory. All up, it took about 13 hours, so we grabbed our 7th Platinum on the 7th day, which means week 1 was right on track. With my visit to a franchise I haven't touched since PS3, we're taking a generational jump back to a franchise I haven't visited since the PS2. We're taking a step into Tekken 7. Now this is a heartfelt story about fathers and sons expressing their love for each other through copious use of anabolic steroids and repeatedly hurling each other into active volcanoes. I have a lot of fond memories of playing this on PS2 with my little brother. Back then I always won, not because I'm good, but because he had to use the Player 2 controller that only registered half of the inputs. As a kid, I was rubbish at fighting games. Every single one I played, I would just mash buttons, which seems to work. However, I'm 32 now, and with decades of gaming experience under my belt, my strategy with fighting games is I still mash buttons. Like, it still works. Why would you just mash buttons? Now, surprisingly, unlike most fighting games, this is a very quick plat, hence why it's in this list, clocking in at apparently 10 hours. That is provisional, of course, that you can get into 10 online matches, including a dead tournament setting in a 10-year-old game. Before that though, we have to beat the short story mode and a few character chapters. After that, there's this treasure mode, which is kind of like it's an arcade style battle sequence where you've got to rank up from, you know, the start up to a 12th Dan, while collecting 50 treasure chests that you get for beating matches. Once I got that all done, I felt somewhat practiced enough to dip my toes into the online mode. So here we have to win a ranked match, a non-ranked match, participate in 10 matches, and then we hit our first roadblock I alluded to. We have to win a tournament match. It literally took 90 minutes of attempts at hosting and searching to just find a match, and for the first time in my life, Australia's archaic copper-reliant internet architecture came to my rescue. After that 90 minutes of trying to find something, I was terrified I'd lose and have to try again because I can't, I'm bad at fighting games. However, I am very, very good at turn-based games. So it was a simple matter of just putting my inputs in and then waiting a few minutes for those to actually register, and we swiftly grabbed the last barrier trophy. After that, there's a couple more miscellaneous trophies in various different game modes, and we grabbed Platinum number 8 after only 6 hours time. And funnily enough, a quarter of that again was just waiting for a tournament. Next stop on the nostalgia train as it travels even further back to the PlayStation 1, and we're visiting a studio that never ever misses. Spyro Year of the Dragon is the finale of the incredible Spyro trilogy, originally developed by Insomniac Games. It's also the last good Spyro game we got, before he was milked by a plethora of different studios, eventually being reincarnated and twisted into this demonic-looking creature.
Ah, kill it! Kill it!
This here is the remake of that trilogy, carefully created by Toys for Bob, recapturing the joy of the originals with a gorgeous new colour of paint. In Year of the Dragon, our purple protagonist is presented with a pilgrimage to pilfer stolen dragon eggs from an evil crocodilian sorceress, leading him and his faithful dragonfly Sparks to traverse dozens of different levels while saving a small force of allies to help him take down the bosses in his way. You can definitely tell this entry is the culmination of what Insomniac learned from their previous two adventures and offers the greatest variety of gameplay yet. You can also see how they started creating the framework for Ratchet and Clank, which of course dominated the next console generation. By the way, what letter are we doing after S again? For the Platinum journey, there really isn't much to draw attention to here because it's one of those incredibly rare games where you don't need a guide and you don't need to go out of your way. Everything is very easy to get, and basically every trophy is just going to pop from playing the game. This is also the easiest one of the trilogy because you don't even need to collect everything. Basic breakdown, each level has its own individual trophy, which is usually just tied to beating it, and then when you've beaten all the bosses, you'll probably have yourself a shiny platinum for just playing the game. What a novel concept, huh? After 8 hours of pure joy, we grab Platinum 9 in the best way possible, by violently assaulting an aristocrat to redistribute their wealth. This also grants us trophy 2500 for the account. And from there, the nostalgia train rolls back to the PS2 for a franchise you'll never see coming. Ratchet Gladiator, or Deadlocked if you're in the US, is a controversial entry in the series. The first thing you'll notice is it's missing Clank in the title. That's because he's not with you, instead you've got these two floating droids in Merc and Green. Another big shake-up is that instead of large planets to explore, the whole game is broken into sequential challenge arenas, each with 4 to 8 different objectives, and they only usually take 1 to 5 minutes apiece. It basically turns the old arena levels into the entire journey. My favourite change though is the fully customizable weapons. You pick the elemental damage and you can stack mods on them like fire rate, area damage, or ammo boosts. For instance, you can just stack AoE mods on your Scorpion Flail and it'll clear entire rooms with a single swing. While these changes were jarring for some fans at the time, personally I loved them. Later shakeups in the series didn't always land, but this is one I will absolutely go to bat for. Trophy-wise, we've got another pretty straightforward one here. Every planet has 15 optional skill points tied to specific objectives, things like beating a challenge without damage or killing enemies with a specific weapon type. Handful of these give trophies individually, but you do need to collect all 165 for one of the trophies regardless. On top of that, you will need to buy the ultimate weapon and max every weapon level. Fortunately, unlike other Ratchet games, this happens pretty naturally without having to grind too much. You will need a quick partial second playthrough for 3 late game skill points, but with the mega weapon variants, you breeze through it incredibly easily. All up, it took about 10 hours to earn Platinum 10 on day 10. A perfect close through this nostalgia run of prior console generations. Now, as you'd expect, Q is not the easiest letter to fill. There's a handful of games starting with Queen, but outside that it's very slim pickings. Fortunately, there is a very iconic series that recently made its way over to the PlayStation ecosystem, and it's one that's both before my time and starts with the letter Q, which makes it the perfect target for this challenge. So the Quake series is probably pure nostalgia for some of you, like LAN parties, dial-up, that quote-unquote golden age of shooters. For me though, it was more like an archaeology dig. Back in 1997, I was actually a little busy learning the alphabet, a skill that as it turns out would prove invaluable 28 years later. And since I know basically nothing about the story here, I did have to sort of investigate, discover it myself. So allow me to walk you through that plot. Basically, the whole thing takes place in downtown San Francisco, 1979. You play as Lieutenant Bobby Shotgun of the Hypermasculinity Regiment, the 69th Division. Now, the mission here is to take down the evil Dr. Empathy, a rogue therapist that is teaching men it's okay to cry, which is both unhealthy, but also transforms them into hideous beasts of emotional health. The cornerstone of Quake II's gameplay is there's no cover system. Bobby Shotgun has to deal with enemy fire like a real man would, taking it directly to the chest and pretending it doesn't hurt, which means you've got to keep moving, circle strafe like your life depends on it, and occasionally use terrain to your advantage. But more often than not, you're just going to treat bullets the same way Bobby treats his feelings. Pretend they don't exist. During his journey, Bobby tears through wave after wave of these grotesque, well-adjusted monsters using an arsenal of testosterone-filled munitions, all while enduring countless boss fights where Dr. Empathy tries to trick him into therapy. Eventually, our hero prevails, defeating Empathy's final form with the combined power of obscure football statistics and completely unseasoned Overcooked steak. This climactic showdown brings the epic tale of Quake II to a close, and also grants us the lion's share of trophies. Every single one of these is just tied to story progress. After that, all that's left is dipping our feet into the 5 expansions, each coughing up a completion trophy, and we grab Platinum 11 after about 8 hours experiencing the canon story of Quake II.
You can't just make up a story and say it's canon.
Yes, I can. Shush. For the letter P, we're going with Pumpkin Jack, a colourful little action-adventure platformer following a reincarnated trickster on a mission from the devil to take down a wizard that's defending mortals from a terrifying curse of eternal night. Despite those stakes, the game takes itself as seriously as a Scooby-Doo villain monologue. Together with a cowardly crow, Jack travels through 6 different Halloween-themed levels, consisting of platforming sections, combat encounters, light puzzle arenas, and different on-rails traversal segments, always ending in a pretty interesting boss fight. The trophies are incredibly generous as well. Most of them are just granted by story progress, with only a handful tied to the game's collectibles, none of which are especially well hidden and none of which are missable. This was a really fun little title reminiscent of old PlayStation 1 platformers. The level design keeps uniformity but is varied enough to be interesting, and the new weapon you get every level keeps the combat engaging. Also, the music here is top notch. The 5 or so hours I spent working for the devil here for Platinum 12 were very enjoyable and acted as the perfect quirky palette cleanser before jumping into an incredibly serious title. In preparation for our next game, I watched some short clips from 2024's Golden Globe winning Best Comedy, The Bear. And while I initially didn't understand how an anxiety simulator about low stakes food preparation could be a comedy, it started to make sense to me that all of these caricatures screaming at each other was the comedy. It's laughing at the absurdity of treating the mundane with uncompromising seriousness. And this is a vision I needed to take into the next game, and I needed my partner to share with me. Yeah. Luckily, I am blessed with a very, very supportive wife.
Oh, I nailed it. I need fucking hands. Where are hands?
Are you ready? Go! Go!
Oh.
Quickly! Ingredients! Let's go! Lettuce!
Oh my god!
Service!
Good, that's what I need. Play it up! Play it up!
What are you giving me tomatoes for? What do you want me to do with the tomatoes? Just put it down. Put the tomato down so I can start preparing. What do you do with that plate? I need tomatoes. Give me the tomatoes. I have 3 different ingredients. What am I to cook? Overcooked All You Can Eat is both of the games bundled with all of the DLC. This relaxing and calming experience has received universal praise for its exceptional realism in delivering the experience of what it is to be a highly regarded Michelin chef.
Oh, no! Yes! Oh, yeah. Yes! How about I go clockwise, you go counterclockwise? That'll work.
Such a fucking terrible idea.
Then we're covering both angles.
Okay. Why would you get a tomato? You'll progress through various levels under the instruction of the king.
All friends? Who the fuck do you think you are?
Your objective is to achieve 3 stars in each level by delivering meals promptly and correctly.
Alright, things. What was it?
Oh, mate!
Yay!
Get fucking cleared.
Obliterated! Yes! Chef!
Fuck! Occasionally the levels will have obstacles that will throw you off course, but this was no issue for 2 bastions of calmness. Crazy!
No! Damn it! I am speed.
No! I am not gaming. Oh my god! I took the plate! Fuck me! Just based on the soothing nature of the game, I cannot recommend it enough. It will solidify your relationship and bring it closer.
Can you not give me garbage vegetables, please?
It's my bad. I'm sorry, chef.
Fuck, put it down! For fuck's sake!
Why is it all on fire? We're in the fucking ice climate. Overcooked All You Can Eat took about 11 hours to grab our most relaxing platinum yet on day 14.
Oh! No! What the fuck?
Fuck!
Point. No! Oh,
Fuck.
Sorry.
No! How the fuck?
Oh, come on!
Neva is the exceptional and emotional masterpiece by the team behind Gris. And if you aren't familiar with Gris, yeah, maybe stick around for a few letters. Now this game, dude, like, I've rewritten this segment so many times, and I don't know how to properly put to words just what this game is. From the very first couple minutes of this experience, the game is just, it's gonna have you like,
Yeah, okay. Well, this is gonna hurt like a mother.
So it's a 2D platformer sort of. You follow the gorgeous forest spirit wolf Neva as she grows from a beautiful puppy chasing leaves and jumping at shadows in summer to an unruly teenager chasing off enemies and leaping headfirst into battle in fall, into this majestic fully grown steed that you're able to ride on in winter. All along the journey, your relationship with this beautiful creature grows. Your bond deepens and your synergy flourishes as you explore truly magnificent seasonal environments alongside the backdrop of a gorgeous theme track. Now, I've seen people say this game is an analogy for overconsumption, pollution, capitalism, all manner of those types of things. And while those themes are definitely there, they all play second fiddle to that most heartbreaking of journeys every pet owner goes through over their life. The most cruel and ultimately extremely worthwhile adventures. Seeing something you love so deeply grow with you, yet grow so much quicker than you. The start of this game had me in tears, the middle of this game had me in tears, and then the end of the game, yeah, it had me in tears. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to play this exceptional expression of love and art ever again, but it's a journey I would recommend to everyone, and an experience I will never forget. Neva took 5 hours up to secure the platinum, however that was broken over 2 days thanks to the soul-crushingly beautiful story taking its toll on my pathetically fragile mental state. Moving right along from that nonsense, I am using the letter M as an apology to the viewers of my last video. You see, in it I teased playing medieval, and then I pulled the rug from under my poor viewers in an act of pure sadism. This cruel decision is something I have spent the last 6 months reflecting on, and I feel awful for it in hindsight. So this sort of teasing is something I promise never ever to do again. So with all that said, please allow this next game to act as an apology. Metal Hellsinger is just a classic game. See, it's one of those standard rhythm-based boomer shooters where you're a demon fighting her way out of the 8 layers of hell, matching her attacks, movements, and shots to a custom-made soundtrack featuring metal lyricist legends with bullet hell mechanics. Just one of those, like, stock standard gaming experiences. And let me tell you, this game absolutely fucking rocks. Like, I'm not even a metal fan, but there's something about timing your movements to a beat that makes you really appreciate it more. And the better you perform, the more intense the music gets, with vocals coming in at the highest multiplier score, which leads to truly epic and emergent gameplay. Your narrator is a friendly, talking skull with this awesome southern drawl. It's basically if Bastion's narrator went to hell and joined Pantera. The gameplay, as you can see, is brilliant, and it's fully customizable to your skill level. For instance, it offers a always on beat setting for the rhythmically challenged person such as myself. The platinum here is tied to completing the 8 levels of hell, and then there's 21 small mini arenas known as torments that grant you new and powerful sigils to equip. And once you've finished everything off, there's a handful of miscellaneous trophies that you can grab via chapter select. There's no collectibles and there's no missables. After 5 hours of headbanging through hell, we take down the Overlord and judge herself to grant platinum number 15. So it is... Wait a little bit. So it's day 16, about 2 PM, and we're 15 platinums deep in the challenge. I'd forgotten just how challenging it is to get, 10 hours of video gaming done per day and like edit a video. So unfortunately, this will be the first month since starting the channel that I don't have a video going out, which sucks, but it is what it is. I could either bring in a bunch of really short games to sort of, balance that and get a video out, or I could, lose a month of uploads and just like fully commit to this challenge. And even though I'm saying I'm tired, I'm complaining a little bit, I love doing this, and fortunately every game I've played this month has been fantastic. But yeah, let's get back into it. With Metal Hellsinger done, we're at 68 platinums total on the account, meaning we have what is probably the most important milestone a trophy hunter with the maturity of a teenage boy could possibly achieve. So for the letter L, we are revisiting a cult classic from the PS3 that is perfect to take the illustrious crown of Platinum 69. Lollipop Chainsaw is what happens when James Gunn, Suda51, and what I can only assume was a mountain of cocaine collide in a writing room. The result is the most bizarre game I played during this challenge, and one I enjoyed every single second of. You play as Juliet Starling, voiced by Tara Strong, absolutely nailing the ditzy bubblegum pop vibe, armed with her trusty chainsaw and joined at the hip by her post-traumatic weight loss boyfriend Nick, who is voiced by the second best Lex Luthor we have ever had. Together they chainsaw their way through 6 zombie-infested levels, each capped by boss fights that are unique, ridiculous, and endlessly entertaining caricatures. This game is the most lovably ridiculous game I'd played in a long, long time. I love the characters, the combat, the level design, the score, but the crown jewel here is absolutely the dialogue.
What's your favorite color, Nick?
Blue? No, green.
Awesome! I love learning about you.
I fucked up, it's yellow.
Now, while my praise for the game is endless, my feelings towards the trophy list are a little different. First off, you have to play the game on hard mode because some of the 40 golden lollipop collectibles only spawn in hard mode. Honestly though, it really isn't too bad once you get a couple of upgrades to Juliet's skills and stats. But the collectibles are actually pretty easy to miss since levels are locked sequences. So if I ever accidentally move too far ahead, I would have to restart the whole stage, and this happened a lot. After finishing the story once by saving all of our classmates, we grab the happy ending and are rewarded with the treasure of being forced to replay the whole thing in time attack mode, which has to be done start to finish in one sitting. You can't save it and come back. Once we get through playthrough 2 though, guess what comes next?
Another one.
This time you have to speedrun every level. Now, let me be clear, I did really love this game, but replaying it 3 times with no story changes, no new enemy types, it's not exactly thrilling. Still, 18 hours later, we grab Platinum 69 in the most fittingly creepy way possible. By looking up at cheerleaders' skirt. Now, with Lollipop Chainsaw conquered, you'd think our journey with scantily clad, questionably aged women was behind us. So, here's the thing, K is a very cursed letter. Since Guerrilla started making the Horizon games, just no one touches it. Kena Bridge of Spirits is an incredible game, but it's too long for this challenge. There's a PS1 era game called Klonoa we could do, but that would kind of turn this video into how many platformers can I cram into it. So instead, I found a racing game, kind of. At first glance, Kandagawa Jet Girls looks like a jet ski racer with some light combat mechanics and an alarming emphasis on jiggle physics. But what if I was to tell you that the game is actually a blistering critique of late-stage capitalism and the inequities baked into the hierarchical class structures? Each story mode is framed as a parable of class struggle. Our opening arc follows 2 municipal school students, proud members of the proletariat, who attempt to transcend their material conditions through perseverance and grit. In direct contrast to our next tale, where the elite private school racers flaunt their bourgeois privilege, benefiting from an unequal distribution of resources siphoned from the labour of the working class. Subsequent arcs then dramatise this struggle further, teams from varying rungs of society striving to win the Kandagawa Cup, only to discover that victory itself is a tool of hegemony. And in the final chapter, the game dares to suggest that even the bourgeois are merely victims of ideology, trapped in the systems designed to alienate man from his class consciousness. Would that make it better that we were playing this game if all that was true? The platinum here is mercifully simple. Complete the 8 storylines, win some time trials, fully upgrade a jet ski, dabble in the minigames, and of course participate in the mandatory dress-up mode. After 9 hours of jet ski racing alongside a story I made up, Platinum number 70 is ours. And with it the most important lesson this game has to offer: seize back the means of production, comrades. With the cursed K conquered, we move on to yet another jarringly janky letter in J. Now, there aren't exactly a ton of options here. You've got Job Simulator for the VR crowd, there's Jusant, which I would have loved to do, but Johnny already beat me to the punch, and of course there's Jack and Daxter, which Sandras has already covered in his challenge, and it's one I've platinum before. So there's really only one option left. Yeah, it's another Jack and Daxter game. So The Lost Frontier was originally a PSP title. It's now resurrected on the PS Plus catalogue. Unfortunately carrying with it quite a bit of PSP-sized baggage, mainly regarding the controls. You can thankfully remap the controls to slightly alleviate that issue, but you can also literally count the pixels available on the screen. Now, despite having to rewire my brain to actually play with my remapped inputs and the camera putting up a tougher fight than any enemy possibly could, I did actually enjoy the game. The story was cool, I really love that Sky Pirate aesthetic, it's criminally underused, and the fighter mechanics were enjoyable once you get used to them. The eco powers were cool, but the fact that you have 8 of them and you can only cycle through them one at a time without a radial wheel was pretty annoying, so I basically ended up not using them. The 4 different guns you get are pretty neat, even though they do sort of feel like Nerf bullets on most of the very tanky enemies. The platinum is a bit rough here. The vast majority of the trophies are missable due to the 5 different cutoff points the game presents you with, but as long as you get every missable trophy as soon as it becomes available, you'll mostly be fine. I was enjoying this experience right up to the absolutely spongy slugfest that is the last half hour, comprising of a single boss fight against the most obnoxiously tanky multi-phase asshole I've fought in recent memory. I've spoken about this before, but making enemies obnoxiously tanky is just the laziest implementation of difficulty, and it turns the whole experience into an endurance test in tedium. Every single time I thought I won this fight, you get greeted with a cutscene leading to one more phase, and this kept happening. Like, after the 5th time of this happening in 32 minutes of Are We There Yet, I got so frustrated that popping the final trophy just caused me to nope out and uninstall the game. So the platinum pop is alongside that, sorry. Look, the game was fine. The game as a whole is fine, but that last boss is straight up dog shit. Fortunately, with Jay behind us, we have cleared the toughest letters, and the home stretch is packed with bangers. So after that bitter taste, I was ready for a franchise I knew would not let me down. Infamous was one of the crown jewels of the PS3 era. 2 incredible mainline games and one of the best standalone DLCs ever made. The PS4 entry didn't quite capture that same spark, but the gameplay was still phenomenal. First Light puts you in the shoes of Fetch, one of Second Son's best side characters, voiced by Laura Bailey. She's up against Shane, a psychopathic gang leader voiced by Bailey's real-life husband, which adds an extra layer of fun to their dynamic. Fetch is a conduit, a superhuman who channels Neon into devastating attacks and super speed, which after a few upgrades basically feels like flying. I'm not totally sure why Neon counts as its own element instead of it being electricity, but the fluorescent pink aesthetic is gorgeous and incredibly satisfying to use. The open world Seattle setting hits all of the usual map marker beats, but traversal is what makes it fun. If you ask me to drive around a bloated map shooting 200 pigeons, that's absolute torture. But if sprinting across rooftops at light speed to clear objectives in 15 seconds flat, that is fun. I will clear an open world doing that. Now the Platinum reflects this fun. You've got to clean up the open world activities, beat the short but engaging story, flex Fetch's powers in 5 different combat arenas, and complete about 100 odd challenges that encourage creative kills. It's a brilliant condensed showcase of what made this franchise special. I think we can all agree that Sucker Punch's new IP is brilliant. But a part of me really misses this world of superpowered rebellion. All up, First Light took about 7 hours, granting Platinum 19 on day 20, before we move into a very different type of game with a similar emphasis on traversal. Haven is another game in this challenge that's unlike anything else I'd ever played before. 2 lovers flee a tyrannical regime that won't allow them to be together, crash landing on a remote planet where they're trying to survive. Most stories sort of focus on the will they won't they aspect of relationships. Haven skips straight to they have and this is why, which makes for a pretty unique and refreshing spin on a relationship tale. Kay and you are perfectly complementary. Kay's background in biology helps with food and medicine preparation, while Yu's mechanical know-how lets her jury-rig technology to keep their ship functional. That balance sets the stage for the game's main loop: repairing your ship, exploring the planet, pacifying wildlife through a pretty simplistic but enjoyable turn-based combat system, and spending quiet moments together. The platinum requires clearing every patch of corrupted rust, defeating 3 hidden super bosses, cooking every different type of meal, building every upgrade, and triggering most of the optional dialogue. That last part is the only part of the game where things drag a little bit, because there's just a little bit more platinum than there is game. See, by the end, I was just cycling sleep, eat, step outside, step back in, and repeat until the right dialogue fired to trigger that last optional conversation. Once that grind was done, all that remained were getting the 2 endings, one of which is devastating, and the other one is slightly less devastating. If you're not into romance-driven stories, this game isn't for you, but if you enjoy them, Haven is entirely that, and it does it beautifully. All up, it took about 10 hours for Platinum 20 on day 21. The slower pace here leading perfectly into our next title. Gris is the game that Nomada Studio made before Neva. And if you're not familiar with Neva, congratulations on discovering the secret message I embedded in this video by watching it in reverse. Now, after the emotional gut punch these guys delivered to me in their other game, I came into Gris completely prepared. You are not going to get this guy to emotionally break down 3 times in one challenge. No, sir. For fuck's sake. Yeah, well, best laid plans, right? Gris is a deliberately vague story about grief, with each of the game's 5 levels representing a different stage, as your character moves through the simple but absolutely stunning environment. Almost every single frame of this masterpiece could be a watercolor painting, and the music, the music! I don't know who the hell this Berlinist person/group is, but their ability to convey emotion through something as simple as piano keys is nothing short of witchcraft. Now, it's a very short and linear game, so I elected to play through semi-blind the first time, which took about 3 hours, and then went back to clean up the miscellaneous trophies, as well as the 28 collectibles strewn throughout the levels via chapter select afterwards, which did take another 3-ish hours. Meaning it took only 6 hours to grab Platinum 21 of the challenge. Hi there! Sorry for intruding, but all that was really happening during this part of the video is I had like a teensy tiny little crash out because I wanted to Platinum 2 games, but Gris kind of left me in a state of contemplative nihilism where all I could really muster the strength for was staring at a wall for 16 hours. So that's all that's going on here. But while I am here, real quick, you having a good time? Enjoying the video? Maybe you would want to hit the subscribe button. That work? Is that... I'm not very good at selling, so you don't have to if you don't want to. Don't even worry about it, actually. Let's ignore that ever happened. And get back into the video. So, anyway, Gris put us at 74 platinums total on the account, meaning the next one is a very important milestone. And I chose to visit a franchise that has probably influenced my video game taste above any other. Final Fantasy I, the game where it all began. And while this series has put out some very hit or miss titles in the past 2 decades, the run from 1 to 10 literally shaped the gaming landscape around it. And you know what? 10-2 slap 2. That game is straight up girly pops with the best job system we've ever seen. I'm tired of the discourse around it. Do not come near me with that 10-2 slander. For Platinum 75, we are revisiting the pixel remaster of the title that kicked it all off. Dubbed Final Fantasy as it was Squaresoft's last hurrah at making a video game. You play as 4 heroes that you adorn with suitably heroic names, and they've been thrust into a quest by the King. That's his name, by the way, it's the king. To go and take down the rogue knight Garland who is absconded with the princess. You quickly take down Jackie Boy, who 40 years later would become the coldest Final Fantasy character of all time.
Bullshit.
What can I do for you?
However, right now, with his first appearance, killing him has sent him 2,000 years back in time to manifest as pure chaos, which is of course an occupational hazard that comes from killing villains. Now, we have to seek out 4 elemental crystals guarded by 4 fiends to travel back in time and face him again. This is without a doubt the easiest and shortest Final Fantasy. In fact, it's so easy I beat the entire game using auto battle without casting a single spell. The trophy list accompanying it is just as simple. Open every chest, encounter every monster, and then kill chaos, which posed the only threat to my master strategy. But even then, it couldn't stand against me AFKing and coming back 3 minutes later to a win screen. 5 hours later, Platinum 75 was ours, auto battle doing all the work to earn the 8th fastest completion time on PSN profiles. And if you thought that was lazy, wait until you see how little effort the next game requires. Erica isn't really a video game. It's a movie where you occasionally get invited to participate.
Okay.
Now personally, I actually despise interactive cutscenes in video games because they tend to break up the flow in such a jarring way. However, when the whole video game is an interactive movie, well, that actually led to a surprisingly enjoyable experience. The acting and cinematography is simply outstanding, and its ability to blend interactive segments into the fully acted scenes was sheer brilliance. I also really enjoyed the story with twists and turns and a drip feed of information at a pace just slow enough to keep you engaged but fast enough to feel rewarding. I really enjoyed this game the first time I played it. I even enjoyed it a bit the second time I played it. But then I had to play it a 3rd time, and a 4th time, and then a 5th time. There's no skippable cutscenes, and the worst controls I've ever seen in a game, consisting entirely of the touchpad. Like, why the fuck could this not be button prompts? I can't tell you how many times I selected the wrong option just because the touchpad is straight garbage, and the only way to correct a missed input is to complete a new playthrough thanks to an incredibly aggressive autosave system, kicking in if you sneeze in the direction of your controller. And because every single trophy is tied to different outcomes, this can lead to having to watch this whole fucking movie all over again because of one small misinput. Now, Erica is a very interesting experiment, and as a standalone video game, it's well worth checking out. As a platinum though, give it a miss because it so egregiously disrespects your time. Each playthrough takes a minimum of 90 minutes, and I just couldn't stomach 5 of those in one day. So Platinum 23 landed early on day 24, meaning we are still 1 platinum behind. However, by the end of this day, I want to flip those numbers around. Devious Dungeon is a really stylish little 2D hack and slash RPG, where you play as a knight who has to kill a dragon. No villain with a nuanced goal, no crystals to collect. You're just a guy, he hates dragons, and he wants to kill one by progressing through the 60 odd levels. Along the way, you take out a handful of bosses and spend coins to upgrade your gear. This game also acted as my attempt to see if I've improved at 2D games since Xenon Valkyrie. And straight away I felt confident, being that this one is swords over guns, and the fact that most people rated this a meager 2 out of 10 difficulty. To give you a concept of 2 out of 10 difficulty, What Remains of Edith Finch, the game that's basically walking from A to B and listening to the stories, was 2 out of 10, and Erica, the movie that made us swipe the touchpad every now and then, was a 3 out of 10 difficulty. So to say I was confident here would be an understatement. This is not a 2 out of 10 difficulty game. Like, yeah, okay, I'm obviously still bad at these games, but it's also very punishing at parts. The enemies have set attacks, they are easy to learn, however the random generation of each level can put them in very, very challenging locations. coupled with the incredibly irritating touch damage you take, they don't by the way, this caused 90% of my deaths. I cannot comprehend how anyone would say this is an easy gimme game. It's a short game, it's a fair game, it's a very, very fun game, but a 2 out of 10 difficulty game? No, not a chance. Trophy-wise, it is a delight though, because I think you genuinely struggle not to unlock every trophy alongside just beating the game. Simple things like upgrading your gear, beating every boss, and just dying a whole bunch. Devious Dungeon took about 4 hours start to finish, granting Platinum 24 and our second Platinum of the day. I think I'm just better suited to 3 dimensions, so let's jump into another hack and slash within that spectrum, sort of. Cat Quest is yet another take on a classic RPG formula, though this time, well, you're a cat. Your mission in the kingdom of Feline Grad is to stop 3 rampaging dragons and have a showdown with the evil Dracoth. It's also chock full to the brim with side quests, gear and spells to collect, dungeons and an obnoxious amount of puns. Seriously, this game is positively obsessed with them. Every town, every quest, every line of dialogue claws its way in with another one. You'll visit locations like the Meowton, trek across the Pacific, and you'd probably be thinking they're absolutely kitten me with this. Like at some point I stopped playing and just sat there formidably annoyed, but also kind of feline good about it. I know there's no perfect formula for comedy, but this game is literally proof that puns are just the laziest form of humor, and anyone using them, especially like in some self-referential way to criticize them, well, they deserve nothing but eternal cat-empt. Instead of contempt, it's yeah, okay, that one didn't work. I actually enjoyed this game a lot, especially once I got the 3 legendary armor pieces and became the bane of dragons everywhere. It does have a bit of a grind for the platinum though, in that you need to clear every single dungeon and collect every single armor piece, most of which are not associated with any quests. And once you've done absolutely everything, you're going to need to spend another hour just grinding to level 99, a level that you will not come close to in beating the rest of the game's content. This was still a very enjoyable ride and a game I'd feel very comfortable referring to as an easy game. However, the best thing about Cat Quest is that it granted us shiny Platinum 25 after 5 hours, which made day 24 a triple Platinum day. Waking up on day 25, having not only caught up to par, but being a day ahead of it, felt phenomenal after spending most of the challenge behind. Honestly, at this point, it's basically free. I have 3 days left to get 2 Platinums, and these last 2 letters are chock full of games perfectly suited to one-day plats. For instance, B, we can go for a game like Braid, or The Incredible Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. Hell, I could play my first ever Telltale game with Batman. Or if I wanted to experience peak gaming, we could of course go with Barbie and her sister's puppy rescue. So in celebration of how easily achievable the end goal is, let's throw back to the previous challenge video with a quiz. Which one of these 4 perfect options do you think I chose? Back to 2D, more 2-player chaos, a visual novel, or the greatest girl boss to ever bless our screens? Yeah, of course, I went for the obvious option. That's right, the penultimate title of the challenge is the best game FromSoft has ever made, delivering a greater emphasis on parrying and aggression to give us the best possible iteration of the Souls formula we have ever seen. Unfortunately, the best version of the Souls formula we'll probably ever see again, thanks to Sony owning the rights to the game and bizarrely outright refusing to revisit it. We're not even asking for much. Like, it doesn't need to be a full-fledged sequel, just give us like a 60 FPS retouch. Like, we're begging. Anyway, the first thing you may have noticed here is that Bloodborne has a 50-hour time to platinum. alongside a 7 out of 10 difficulty. And I'm here to tell you that those numbers, much like the recommended serving size for chicken fingers, are just made up nonsense designed to hold you back. There is a not so secret strategy we can involve to speed up this journey just a smidge, and that secret is that we just have
Why'd
to
you come?
So here's the thing. Almost every Souls game has a form of EXP glitch you can use to maximize your stats. And while that can make parts of the game easier, the gameplay in Souls games is still incredibly punishing, and Bloodborne specifically is going to come down to can you parry or not. So the extra long health bar we have now is essentially just a fallback for when we inevitably miss the majority of those crucial parry windows. Now, despite being the best Souls experience, Bloodborne is actually the shortest one as well. It's far more linear than the other titles, and it really only has half a dozen large areas. The Platinum as well is one of the easiest, being completely absent any obnoxious equipment grind. Kill the bosses, dip your feet in the Chalice dungeons, collect all the weapons, and then lastly snag the 3 endings, easily doable in one run using backup saves. I'll admit, I went a little bit insane on this game and snagged the Platinum the very same session I started playing it 14.5 hours later, which coincidentally grabbed us our 3000th trophy on the account, as well as the second last Platinum for the challenge. However, did you see something wrong with this picture?
Disgusting!
Yeah, we're not done yet. The Old Hunters DLC is phenomenal, but the overwhelming consensus to it is that it turns the difficulty up a very large and noticeable notch, both in the incredibly punishing bosses as well as the enemies standing in your way to them. Having torn the base game in half, I was feeling confident. However, once again, the toughest obstacle in this challenge had reared its ugly head and slapped me with sleep deprivation. Grabbing the Platinum at 3 AM in the morning, which is 8 hours past my usual bedtime, I didn't back up my save, and it had then been overwritten, meaning we are locked into New Game Plus. In Souls games, this means that basically everything will do 50% more damage and have 50% more health. And while this was terrifying at first, it actually made the DLC my favourite experience of the entire challenge. Every enemy and boss here laughed at our incredibly high stats as if they were completely meaningless, and I had to actually learn how to fight every single boss, including what many call the most difficult Souls boss From has ever made in the Orphan of Kos. This screeching fetal nightmare has 18,000 attacks, none of which are particularly well telegraphed or make sense. Phase 1 wasn't too bad, but Phase 2 took me like over 6 attempts and a goddamn miracle to clear. We finally kill it with 0 health vials left and a very serendipitous backstab, marking the end of our Bloodborne adventure. And yes, in case you were wondering, I found this supposed 50-hour 7 out of 10 difficulty Platinum challenge to be basically on par with the supposed 2 out of 10 Devious Dungeon. With our longest title conquered here at 18 hours played on the 26th day, it was time to wrap up the challenge with a victory lap, and there's no better title to do that than with the love letter to PlayStation that is our last game. Astro's Playroom is a delightful little platformer that comes pre-installed on every brand new PS5 and acts as an introduction to the DualSense 5 controller. And to my great shame, when I first got my console, I immediately uninstalled it because I thought that's all it was, but I could not be more wrong. This game is not only a terrific adventure in its own regard with surprisingly gorgeous visuals and variation between each level, it's also just a really fun journey through PlayStation's history, asking you to collect not so hidden artifacts, showcasing the past 3 decades of the console's life, and it's also just teeming with references to iconic PlayStation franchises. Like, here we revisit stops from our journey in Uncharted, Tekken, Ratchet, Bloodborne, and there's other letters too. As a platinum, it doesn't get simpler. Collect the puzzle pieces and artifacts from each of the 17 levels, complete some incredibly fun speedruns, and hunt down some secret bots for the DLC trophies. Then finally, you get to play around in this beautiful PlayStation museum. So at 11 PM on day 26, we unlock the very last trophy of the challenge in the most perfect way possible, by picking up a platinum trophy in-game to pop the platinum that secures the challenge completion. After 26 days, 27 games, 62 cups of coffee, and 873 trophies, it ends here, surrounded by the history that made me fall in love with games in the first place. It's now been a week since finishing my second challenge for the channel, and I'm feeling both rested and reinvigorated. But more than that, I'm feeling grateful. Grateful that I got to spend a month playing some of the best games ever made, and while not every platinum was a joy, every game was a great experience in its own regard. But most of all, I'm grateful to you for watching me talk about video games, for leaving comments to share your own stories, and for just being a part of this passion for me. When I started this channel 8 months ago with a video on the best game I'd ever played at the time, I had no idea if anyone would watch, if anyone would care, or even how to use the most basic editing software, an aspect I'm honestly still pretty rubbish at. But the support that video got snowballed into another 20 since, and along the way I've earned 80 platinums this year. Now there's still 3 months left in 2025 though, and I've got my eyes set on triple digits before the year ends. So once again, thank you so much. A special shout out to those of you that comment on every single video. You know who you are and your support means the world to me. If you want to see another 20 odd plats before the year's out, make sure to keep an eye on the channel and a bevy ready. Ciao!